What's good? What's good? I think I just had my most popular Instagram interaction ever. A comment I made has like 700 likes. That's insane. What was the comment? Uh, it was on, I think, DC Drano. He's one of those religious conservatives that has become an influencer, kind of to fight the craziness of the left. So he always calls out the leftists. I often call out the leftists. I don't like the religious conservative types a whole lot, but I hate them a lot less than I hate the commie leftists. So he made a post and he said, leftists, blah, blah, blah. And I responded and I had said, leftists are the most insufferable people. I used to give that title to you folks, the religious conservatives, but not anymore. Oh boy, did that blow up. Relative, 700 is not a lot, but it's a lot for me. Some people were like agreeing with me. Like one guy who was like, yeah, I'm an atheist conservative and I hate the left, blah, blah, blah. But then one gentleman took particular offense and decided to begin to educate me on how we wouldn't be a country without religious conservatives. And so we had a little back and forth, and I went ahead and looked at his profile, and I saw something that intrigued me, or rather made me cringe. And I realized that me calling someone else cringe is like the pot calling the kettle black. That's an old expression for being a hypocrite. I am a pretty cringe-worthy person. I acknowledge that. So when I'm calling someone else cringe, it's pretty useless or meaningless. But anyways, this gentleman on his Instagram bio, Christ is king, whatever. But then he has this expression, biblical masculinity. I read that and I was like, oh dear God. Oh dear God. That is one of the most cringe things I've encountered this year. But I get it. I get it. In a world where masculinity in general is being demonized, is being targeted, we're told that just all masculinity is toxic. And that's not what we're told, but that's sort of the end game of the attacks on masculinity, is to make it all appear toxic and to prevent men from wanting to cultivate their own authentic masculinity. So I get it. It makes total sense. The principle of polarity is a universal law, or so I believe. You might not believe that, but I believe it. Many religions and philosophies discuss it. Polarity is real. And so when you have one extreme energy, you're going to have another extreme energy form. And so this is where I struggle, being in the middle of this left-right, religious versus atheist culture war, in that if the conservatives, religious conservatives, actually won and actually got the power that they wanted, I would not want to live in a religiously conservative society. This right here probably would not be allowed. I swear to God, this is a true story. I lived in a town in Texas. It was Tyler, Texas. I went to college there, the University of Texas at Tyler. It was just known that the church kind of ran the town. And the county, it was a dry county. So you couldn't you could not go to the grocery store and buy alcohol. And this was I graduated in 2006. I got there in 2007, 2008. So 2008, parts of Texas, you could still not buy alcohol. You would literally have to go across county lines. I do not want to live in a religious conservative society. I do not want to live in a communist society. I do not want to live in a statist society. All governments, all religions, all seek to control the individual. All roads lead to control. Well, not the anarchist road. It does lead to control, self-control. And the more that we try to outsource morality and we try to outsource essentially existence, we lose sight of sovereignty and that relationship between freedom and responsibility. One of our founding fathers, they all weren't Christian, by the way, but I do believe one of them said, was it Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson? Show me a man who would trade liberty for freedom, and I'll show you a man that deserves neither. Or something like that. Ain't that the fucking truth? And so while the globalists, I think, are more, I don't want to say atheistic, but the globalists are definitely evil. They're definitely not like atheistic. Some of them might be, but they definitely worship evil entities. Their global communism, communitarianism, is bullshit. It's control. But so is Christian nationalism. And then there's this whole thing, Christian nationalism is a psyop. So Christian nationalism is being stoked to further create the divide between the left and the right. And I would agree with that. I would think that's real. But they're implanting ideas that these people actually like, which is scary. So a normal Christian man, before being influenced by the deep state, the CIA, whatever you want to call them, the social engineers, he might not be such a zealot. He might just want to stick to his family and his community. But when he sees what's going on in his community and then he's incepted with this idea of Christian nationalism or biblical masculinity, he has just allowed his agency to be taken from him. Maybe he was a Christian nationalist before, but I think for the most part, a lot of normie Christians before, like 10 years ago, weren't Christian nationalists. They were more or less constitutional republic advocates. So I don't want to live in either of those worlds. So I don't know what to do. Like, I'll temporarily ally with the Christians because they do seem to have somewhat of a slight moral sort of advantage. I do acknowledge the church is dirty. The church is dirty. I'm talking about your average normie Christian. They are who I would align with. Those basic Jesus values. Not like the church stuff. The church is just gone. The church is broken. Just like the state. And so while I mentioned I like some Christian values, I like the separation of church and state more. And then this guy that I referenced earlier in the post, went off and, the Bible and Jesus and all this other stuff. And I'm like, fuck that shit. Fuck your Bible. Average normie Christians are cool. Zealots are not. But that's what the globalists want, are zealots on both sides to fuel this culture war so they can destabilize and destroy our country and then usher in smart cities and smart control and totalitarianism. They're somewhat succeeding, but they're not going to win in the long run. They're going to lose in the long run. Once we stop fighting these fucking culture wars. I don't know what to do. I'm going to end it there. Thank you. Much love.